my second edition of Norma in Rome, and he said, I want to remind you of something. This is Maestro Serafina. And he said, you have an instrument. You study all the time. It's a violoncello, shall we say, eh? Now forget that you're really singing and just play. Play your phrases, legato, let yourself go. Forget that there are difficult phrases and this and that. Just have fun. Forget that you've studied at home. This is what I want you to do. Because this is the most beautiful piece of music. And really, now forget what you've studied, just feel your words. Feel the where it says grandioso. Let yourself out. Always controlling yourself, of course. But there's plenty. I wouldn't be afraid if I were you.
See, with excitement comes very
good. That's good. That means life. If you're excited, thank heavens. That's what I'm looking for. Life. You've got to breathe life in these things because they were born with life.
And so again, with the voice, with this part of the audio of the master classes of Maria Callas at Juilliard, we're opening our second episode of the season Music Was Born with Life. And we have such an extraordinary song for today. I was just telling Raffa, our co-host for this season, I was just telling him that I am so excited about this song. From my perspective, this is one of the most incredible songs ever written, this time by Maestro José María Lacalle, Spanish composer. And we're going to be explaining a little more about him. But before we get there, why don't we say hi to Raffa? And Raffa, why don't you share us, how did you get to know about this song? When was the first time you heard it?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Richard, for inviting me once again in this program side. The first time that I noticed that this beautiful song exists in this kind of genre of music, it was in 1990 when the Three Tenors concert in the World Cup soccer was at that time.
Who sang it?
Amapola.
It
in
was,
that concert.
It was Pavarotti? No, Pavarotti.
That's right. Jose Carreras, who sang. No, Jose Carreras interpreted this song in this CD, let's say, in this performance. And my point of view, it's a great performance from Jose Carreras at the end. But you can see that I'm not fan of Jose Carreras because I think he has some limits in his interpretation, in his powerful, and obviously when you are comparing versus Pavarotti, for example, sometimes Carreras gets a little bit lower in that level, you know. But at the end, it likes me too much how Jose Carreras interpreted this beautiful song, and that's the reason why I noticed that this song exists. But then, when I was a student in the college, there was a contest, a musical contest, and among the guys or the people that were in the contest, they were playing ballads or rock and roll or something like this, and I came with this song with Amapola, and the whole crowd in a way gets confused, and another way gets amazing. They were kind of surprised, no, because at the end it was out of the things that they were used to play in the performance in the contest, you know. So maybe I have some records in there because it was very years ago, but it was very excited for me and for the school as well. And at that time, with that song, I won the contest.
That was what I wanted to ask you. How did it go? Because I wanted to mention that to sing Amapola, you need two things. You need voice and you need a heart so that you can provide the emotion. Because from this is one of the songs, and we are going to notice it in the recordings that we are reviewing today. This is a song that if you don't feel it,
Yes.
nobody will believe you. And for that reason, I wanted to start a little, instead of going directly into the first recording, I wanted to mention a couple of things around interpretation. Of course, I would like to hear it from you. As it is the case in many songs, if you don't start fully in the role of the song, then nobody will buy it later. You have to start
Hmm.
strong on your feet on what you're saying. Because even though the melody that everybody knows is Amapola, lindissima amapola, tara, 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 ta. That's the melody everybody knows. But before it opens saying, de amor en los hierros de tu reja, de amor
Hmm.
escuché la triste queja, de amor
Hmm.
que sonó en mi corazón, diciéndome así con su dulce canción.
Yeah, it's a poem.
It's the words for people who are listening to us. The words in Spanish are pure art. Each one of these phrases, I just read
Hmm.
it, I didn't give it any other intention. But if you give the emotion enough to read it correctly, to sing it correctly, de amor en los hierros de tu reja, de amor escuché la triste queja, de amor que sonó en mi corazón, diciéndome así con su dulce canción. Also, because
Hmm.
there is an effect there, con su dulce canción, the way Maestro Lacalle gives more length to the final syllable of this
Hmm.
first phrase, it's
Hmm.
truly a masterpiece because
Yes.
he's going to give us a complete variety. What I mean is not like a very plain, only predictable song. Amapola, lindissima amapola. No, it starts differently. The
Yes.
mood opens differently. What would you like to mention around this beginning? What are your thoughts?
Yes, as I said, from my point of view, in the very beginning, you can hear that in the lyrics that it's a poem. As you read it right now, if you read it and nobody knows that this is a song, they will think, or the people could think that you are reading a poem at the end, even if they don't know the song. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the lyrics are in the phrases, the words, the meaning, which makes sense after the amapola in the core, no? Amapola, lindísima amapola. And then he's begging, no seas tan ingrata y ámame, ámame. He's asking for love.
It's tremendous.
Yes.
We're going to get there, because and I wanted to mention it before we listen to the first, because what I would like people who are watching us and later listening us on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, TuneIn, and the many other platforms. What I would like you to keep in your mind is that you need to really feel the emotion of the singer.
Yeah.
If there is no emotion, then the song could be anything. Then you didn't understand what the job is. And I think that if you won the contest that year, is because you really made the job of going through the words, of going through the melody, and giving each of the phrases the emphasis, polishing it at each
Hmm.
and every syllable so that the song was unique.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, agree.
And it takes, we are going to see it a little later. I was saying that it takes a voice because there are many phrases, there are many parts in this song that are really complicated. Maestro Lacalle, when composed it, really demands the singer not only to provide emotion, but to provide the emotion and be able to keep the sound with a with a, if not, well, ideally perfect intonation, perfect pitch, ideally, but not only that, the phrases, the first Amapola, lindissima Amapola. When you have to keep the breath going for so long, and if you haven't placed the voice correctly after the first Amapola, you may fall out of breath, or the voice may fall out of place. And when by the time you want to say lindissima, there is a problem with the throat. And the second time you say Amapola, lindissima Amapola, no seas tan ingrata, llama. That part makes many people be scared.
Yes.
Even if you don't go super
Yeah,
high,
it's not easy. It's not it's
you
not it's not easy.
always have to say Yama, and then, well, depending on the type of your voice, it depends how high you go. But say Yama, Paula. That's one way of doing it. You like you grow. You see like an explosion. Amapola, como puedo. It really depends on the interpreter. There are many ways to do it, but that's one of the keys on understanding, or you will be able to witness if the
Mm,
singers actually understood it. Because if
mhm.
they just went flat, Amapola, como puedes tú vivir tan sola, they could be singing anything else. Would you
Yeah,
would you like to add more on to explain the difficulties of singing this tremendous song?
I think as you said, the interpretation would be um, uh, is fundamental the way you are feeling it, the song. If you don't feel it, you can easily, in a way, you can easily sing this song, but with nothing to give to the crowd. Okay, so if you really want to have a great performance, because this song is created in order to the tenor, in this case the tenor or the singer, can bright in the scenario, you know, that besides that this is a poem and it has a great arrangements in the musical arrangements and so on. um, um, this song is created in order to the singer could brighten the scenario, and when they or the singer is given 100% in this song, the crowd will be on you 100% because you did it perfectly, but only if you did it perfectly. Once again, this is as I said, this is a song in a contest. To be in a contest and do it right and do it well and do it perfectly in order that you can bright and you can say, hey, everyone, let's get out of my way because this is me with Amapola, all right? Because all the songs or other singers, whatever it is, will be below of me because at the end, this song Amapola will give lyrics, music in arrangements, and voice, quality of voice. Once again, if you performed correctly in a proper way.
And I also wanted to mention to that point that there are many opportunities for the singer to prove he's doing a great job. Of course, you can go always high with the high
Mhm.
notes because for tenors, that's the easy way out, you know. And keep it for long, so that people say, he sustains the long for too long. But you can play with the style as I was telling you. Amapola, Amapola. Even with Amapola, emphasizing the P's and the consonants, you can do something extraordinary. But let's go to our first example. And for that purpose, I am going to put on the screen the four examples that we are going to be reviewing in the order that we are going to be reviewing them, we are going to start with a Peruvian tenor, the tenor from Peru, Juan Diego Flores. Many people know him because he was um, he was a very famous Rossinian tenor. And let me put the volume a little higher so that you can actually hear him. At the beginning, there is only applause. We're getting there. He's walking on the stage. I'm not putting it on the screen, in case you were wondering.
De amor en los hierros de tu reja, de amor escuché la triste queja, de amor que sonó en mi corazón, diciéndome así, con su dulce Amapola, lindísima amapola, será siempre mi alma yo te quiero, amada niña mía, igual que ama la flor la luz. Amapola, lindísima amapola, no seas tan ingrata y ¿cómo puedes tú vivir tan sola? De amor en los hierros de tu reja, de amor escuché la triste queja, de amor que sonó en mi corazón, diciéndome así, con su dulce canción.
Okay, so Rafa, what are your thoughts on Juan Diego Flores singing Amapola?
Well, first of all, the orchestra is great. The musicians are great. The arrangements, the music and arrangements are great. Um, my point of view, this song, the best way to interpret or to have a good performance should be, right, in a way, should be with an orchestra behind of you. The, the environment is different, all right? His interpretation is totally devoted. Um, he expressed um, the accents perfectly with the lyrics as I said, in a total devotion. He's totally deliver his soul in this interpretation. I liked very much the color and the voice timbre in his performance is pretty clear, very clear. The most that I really like is a little bit of the final. It was exceptional. This passaggio between in Amame. Ama,
When he goes right.
that passage is wonderful, really wonderful. He doesn't hesitate. Is clear. Is perfect. Is good positioned in his technique. Is great is great in there. The only thing maybe that I could say that it was the as we said in Mexico, the bean in the rice, no, is the final when he says, ¿Cómo puedes tú vivir? Tan. He gets up, tan, caught his breath in a briefly moment, tan, sola. He could take my point of view. He could take in just in one breath. My point of view, and it will be exceptional. It will be a 10 to 10 piece in his interpretation. Is no bad. No, it's no bad. It's great. Once again, it does this. Let's say this little thing doesn't diminish the whole performance, but it will be perfect if he could say tan sola and close. Okay, that's what I will say in just one breath.
Well, I'm afraid I have a very different point of view as in regards to Juan Diego Flores. I really didn't like the arrangements.
Really?
The orchestra sounds. I mean, the orchestra itself is very good. The arrangements, I'm not a fan of them. I think there are several.
Arrangements, but you mean arrangement for the orchestra or the arrangements from the voice of his interpretation?
I'm going to get to his voice. First, I'm talking about the arrangements of the orchestra. There's
Okay.
something that doesn't actually work, and it happens very often when musicians take music of older composers of the early 1900s, that they like to make like these pauses in music, like changing the tempo and doing something weird and then going back to the melody. They do it again with Juan Diego's interpretation. I think I know this is not his fault. This is the person who made the arrangements, because it makes me lose the mood of the song when they do these changes. So that's why I didn't like the arrangements. The orchestra itself has a very nice sound. The director conducts the orchestra correctly. What I don't, the sound of the voice of Juan Diego Flores, for people who know him in his roles of Rossini, he was always criticized because his voice was what is called in the opera too white.
Mm,
No, there was no depth in his voice. That's why
mm,
many people didn't like the voice of Juan Diego. Fortunately, in this recording, we can see more of his more rounded voice and it sounds much nicer. What I
mm,
didn't like is that I think he makes it unnecessarily slow. And it could be because of the arrangements of the orchestra. Somebody told him, de amor en los hierros de tu reja, de
yeah.
amor. And it has to be, the mood is de amor en los hierros de tu reja, de amor. It's a little more faster, and he sings it
Mm,
more lyrically continuous, like if it was a Puccini aria. And that's what really didn't like, that the overall sound of Juan Diego is like he was singing an opera by Puccini with that continuous flow of legatos, and the style of the song is not really that. It has more moments of escucha esta triste queja de amor, ta la 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 la, de amor, tra la 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 la, diciéndome así con su dulce canción. And even when you say canción, you don't say dulce canción. That is not the song, but that's what Juan Diego does. And I
mhm,
think it has to do more with the arrangements and how it was written. But that's what I don't really like, the style. The voice of Juan Diego, I think it sounds pretty well in this one. Um, of course, he went for a high note. He was a Rossinian singer, and he had many high notes. He could reach the high
mhm,
C very easily. I think he could even reach the D. I'm not sure what was his highest note. So even though he left that repertoire because his voice could no longer be continuously singing those operas, he still has a very easy way to go up, and you notice it in his voice. He is
mhm,
comfortable going up in the upper register of his voice. I also, as you mentioned, I also don't like the ending.
mm.
It's like, when you're expecting a Hollywood movie and you know that it has to come up Schwarzenegger or any of the superheroes, and you always read that, and the song is not like that.
Yeah.
If you see, more of my concerns are around the style, that you have to keep the style going, and when you make the pause in the music for the arrangements, go back to the style of the composer, then at the end we think that Juan Diego is going back to the opera. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, he he chose to go for a high note, a pause, and rap. I would have preferred to sing a shorter high note. Maybe of course, he was running out of breath. He didn't make the calculations correctly, and he said,
Yeah,
I'm,
could
I'm,
be.
I'm going to need breath. So I will breathe and continue. But maybe shorter high note and continuously, and the effect, as you mentioned, is much better because the
Mhm,
singer is continuously, as he's going up, tan sola, you see he's in full control. But when you see a singer breathing in the middle, in between of a phrase, it always leaves a sort of a bad experience.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
Personally, I am not too satisfied, mainly because of the style. If you notice, I don't have a problem with his notes, uh, the sound of his voice, but the overall concept of how the song flows is what really, I don't buy his version, to be sincere. Another thing that I noticed because I read the comments is that many people say that this song is from Agustin Lara, and this is
mhm,
not a song from Agustin Lara. So I would appreciate people on YouTube, if you're making a comment, at least make sure that you are writing the right information. Because the moment I read, oh, he sings extraordinarily this song from Agustin Lara, I told myself, no, no, you can go and say that this is Agustin Lara, because we are going to bring music from Agustin Lara in the coming
Yeah.
programs. So
Yeah.
we wait for that. But now it's time to talk about the second recording that we have, and it is mezzo soprano, much to our surprise because I wanted to share a soprano. But I found a mezzo, Margherita Rotondi, and I would like you to listen to how it goes in the voice of a mezzo. A young mezzo, by the way. So this was mezzo soprano Margherita Rotondi. Rafa, what are your thoughts on this one?
First of all, you need to consider that, as I said before, um, singing just piano and voice is completely different piano with an orchestra. Always. The errors or the brightness will shine at the end. Will be at you can see that very quick. Even that you don't know anything about music, you know. And obviously the musicians will see that errors or that kind of stuff that will appear just with the piano and the voice. All right. And so we need to take care about this because in a comparison between Juan Diego, for example, which has the whole orchestra, is different between this. All right. Uh, the sound is not so clear in here right now for any reasons, but when I heard this version with my headphones, Um, I noticed that I know she's Italian. Okay, it's fine. But even though she's Italian, um, you know that when you are singing, you need to open your mouth mainly in the vowels, no, in a correct way because you are maybe giving maybe another message or words that you cannot understand. For example, she says la luz del dio, la luz del dio. It sounds like an O instead of la luz del día, the day, you know? O, ¿cómo puedes tú vivir tan solo? I'm exaggerating, I'm overreacting in this, but at the end, when you are having a performance um, in a language that is not a native language, you need to take very careful in that in that way, in that precise things, you know, because at the end you know that it's not your native language. So the vowels has to be precise in a way. In fact, the word Amapola, which is the title of the songs, it sounds like Amapola between O and A. So once again, it has to be, she has to be very, very careful on that. My point of view, she has a very nice voice, very, very nice voice. She has a good technique for breathing. Uh, she as well. She doesn't hesitate in any moment. She is very steady when she is performing in the song. She has a very strong voice when she is loud in a way. When she is getting into the and the highest notes, it's nice for me. It was a nice presentation in there. And however, if I can see this song as a map in a way, in a whole map, um, it doesn't convince me a lot because it was a kind of flat. The peaks were so slow, were not too high. You know what I mean? It was there were the peaks what the in which the song needs to be peaking there in that position in that note. But out of this, he sung in a very flat way. My point of view. That's what I will say.
Well, let me share now my comments. Opposite to what I said, that I didn't like the arrangements for the orchestra, this time I really like the sound of the piano. Because if you notice, the piano is giving us the melody very clear. Dun, 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 da, 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 da. Even without the voice, the piano works. And of
Yes.
course, yes, the impression of having an orchestra of 60, 80 musicians against the piano, of course, the impression is different. But the pianist does a very good, from my perspective, does a very good job.
I
Uh,
agree.
the reason I wanted to bring this Italian mezzo here is because I also noticed that I said, what a brave woman. It is not your native language. You are Italian. The vowels in Italian are different to our vowels in Spanish. And of course, I also noticed that she falls in those problems many times.
Mhm.
Amapolo. In lugar, amapo. In our Spanish is po. And it says po, like very close. Po is po. Amapola, Amapola. Very well. O, a. And just Amapola. Referring to your picks, I also wanted to bring her up because I noticed she she knew that if she went higher, either in volume or in a note, she knew that her voice would break. So I noticed that she's very cautious. I mean, she goes high, but like refrains because she knows that if she gives too much, she's going to fail. And
Mhm.
that happens in the areas I was telling you at the beginning. Um, that part is the perfect place to break your voice. in fact, instead of sounding like a great, huge sound, she doesn't sound, yeah, mama. She doesn't, doesn't sound right. She says, oh, mama, like more closed in her throat because she wants to keep control. She knows that if she opens too much, if she goes too high in the voice will fail. That's why she keeps it. That's when you are singing and you say, "Oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have chosen this one." It looked way more. It looked easier, but now that I have this 50 or 60 or I don't know how many people in front of me with just a piano, I notice that this thing is going to be horribly wrong if I commit a mistake. And those picks are very demanding because people are expecting those picks and she doesn't deliver them
That's right.
because it is also a very tiring song. When you sing it completely, and she does it with the repetition because there are you repeat the same phrase or there are changes in the words, but the structure is usually the same. She does a repetition. By the time you finish the first one, you're already tired. So you go again for the repetition and the peaks. If you notice at the end, she doesn't even try a high note. She said, no, this is way too much. And I think she raps it nicely. If you ask me, I prefer a singer who raps it nicely, in control, instead of a singer going up and running out of breath or sounding choppy or anything horrible. So I think that if you're going to do it modest but nice, keep it modest but nice. But if you want to go high stratosphere and fail, then better not go. That's those are my
I agree.
thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So I think that the merit of what we need to recognize in her is that she knows her limitations. So
Sure.
she doesn't expose too much. As a result, the passion is not there. I also think she really didn't study the words that much. She doesn't feel too comfortable in all. There are parts where you see she's very committed. There are parts where she seems disconnected. So those would be my thoughts. Would you like to add anything, Rafa,
No,
to
no, no. I
Margarita?
agree with you. Totally agree with you. Yes.
Then it's time to go for now a Spanish tenor, Luis Maria Bilbao. That you will notice, Luis Maria Bilbao is a tenor. That I said instead of a voice, he has a canyon, like a cannon, because he has this super huge voice. You will notice immediately. And by the way, he's a very nice guy. Not very common in the tenors, but Luis Maria Bilbao is a very nice guy. So let's listen to his rendition of Amapola, live in Mexico City, by the way.
Mm.
So this is what spinto, close to dramatic tenor, sounds. Opposite to Peruvian tenor Juan Diego Flores, Juan Diego has a much lighter voice. So you immediately notice the difference between the colors. But let's go to your comments, Rafa.
Okay. In fact, that's a dramatic tenor. That's right, because uh, you know, if you put in a scene a dramatic tenor with that kind of with that kind of song, sorry, with that kind of song, and taking into account that this song it's a poem like Amapola, if this tenor is not, I don't know how to say, smart or to think in a strategy how to handle this performance, certainly he will fail. And my point of view, this guy maybe could be a very nice guy, but from my point of view, it's not approved. My point of view is exaggerated, overreacted in his performance since the beginning until the end. Um, um, he has a lot of peaks, a lot of holes in his interpretation. My point of view is that he's singing very guttural with a throat in very piece of of the song, uh, not steady. It's not steady because it's la luz del día. O sea, it's not the way. My point of view is not the way. Amapola, lindísima amapola, no seas tan ingrata. Yeah. You know, I'm overreacting maybe a little bit, but it's a kind of type of, as you said, the style when he is singing, and it don't this kind of performance doesn't convince me, because from my point of view this is a love song. Yes, you are dying by Amapola, you are dying by her love or something like this, but there's not a way to overreact, to tell her that you love her and please, here I am, love me as well. This is not the way. My point of view is there's no brightness in his interpretation, from my point of view.
Well, on my side, I would like to start again with the piano. The part of the solo of the piano I really love. We have great pianists in Mexico. The way he makes the piano sound, it's just, again, wonderful. Without the voice, again, the melody works itself. You can have no singer and just listen to the piano and have fun because the rhythm is pretty well, the accents of the music are pretty well in the piano. So I really love the piano here in the accompaniment. Um, this has always been the problem with huge, powerful voices that even when if they try to take out all the pasta to sound softer, they sound childish or even ridiculous because the voice is so huge that if your voice naturally is like shouting out and you take that out of your voice and just sing with a party, something doesn't work. That's why many dramatic heavy tenors don't go for songs because they always have a horrible time trying to work on the emphasis and the syllables and making it believable. However, he wanted to go for it. And in fact, also one of my thoughts, and provided that he's Spanish, the same way the composer is Spanish, my thoughts are, and when you were showing the examples of how what he did, I was thinking that maybe he wanted to do something more like a Spanish style of flamenco or other type of singing. That's where my mind goes. I'm not sure. We should ask him, what were you trying when you went for this song? But at the end, very difficult to achieve what you need to achieve in a delicate song like this, because when you leave your voice, it immediately turns into an opera aria. At the end, it's basically an aria of the opera. Again, with the tremendous amount of voice that he has, and one tends to forget that this is still a delicate song. What the mezzo brought us, because she brought us a more delicate interpretation. Now, Luis Maria goes to the other extreme and gives us a lot, way too much, of parts where we needed the voice to be more calm, more intimate, more convincingly. So I think that he doesn't achieve that. However, we also know that people, when they attend concerts, this type of music, they are expecting the high notes. So when they say, "Oh, look at the volume of their voice," they will immediately give the applause. Even if it doesn't work, 99% of the times, people will give you the applause because that's what people need. But if you want to analyze it more from the style of the composer, that's when you say, something's not really working. Also, as you said, there are problems in understanding the vowels and the words. There are many parts when we cannot really understand what he is singing, uh, which is sad because if you speak Spanish, you want to understand the content in your language. The excuse of the Italian mezzo that it was not her native language and that maybe she didn't study well, it's not an excuse for Luis Maria because he's Spanish. I mean, from the same land of the composer. So that's how it goes. But why don't we go now for our fourth example? That is now Mexican tenor Rodolfo Acosta, and this is his rendition of this song. Oh, there it goes.
Canción que es muy popular ahora en Colombia, Amapola. Diciendo que así
This time, a lyrical tenor. We had the three types of tenor: Juan Diego Flores, a light or leggero tenor, a heavy tenor, Luis Maria Bilbao, and we have a lyrical tenor, Rodolfo Acosta. What are your thoughts, Rafa?
Well, I think that as all the versions in piano, I think the piano was okay in the three versions. Maybe you can have my point of view. The version in piano is the best. Is the Italian? It's a great piano in there. But the other ones, the other two, they were okay. It's fine. You can see a tenor much moderated than the other one. Um, uh, his voice has body, he has rhythm, interpretation. Um, he doesn't have those kind of overreactings in their interpretations. Um, he feels the the song, the lyrics, the most of the song. He feels the lyrics precisely. There were some things in there that little seconds, let's say, in a way, or yes, little seconds for his breath. For his breathing, there were some chords in his breathing. Uh, Maybe are not so noticed at the moment, but when you are analyzing, you can notice that. The thing in here, in the passaggio, in ¿Cómo puedes tú estar? In that part, he didn't uh, he didn't support in his diaphragma, or something happens in there, because at the moment that he needs to explode and gets to that tone, in that note, um, he breaks down, and I don't know how to say desafinar,
Of
gets out to
pitch?
the on speed.
Off
Yeah,
pitch?
off. Thank you.
Mhm.
Off speed. Um, and he breaks down in there. At the end, it's fine, but in the way, in the passaggio, he breaks down in there. So it was not, in a way, it wasn't steady in there, because at the end he was out of the comfort zone at the end. And besides, at the very end, instead of the lyric says, ¿Cómo puedes tú vivir? ¿Cómo puedes tú vivir? He says, ¿Cómo puedes tú estar? He chose the A because A is a strong vowel, and it's best to think. It's better to think. It's better to sing. Sorry, instead of the I, because the I is much difficult to sing in that level of note. Um, Maybe it was a tricky thing, or this is a strategy thing, or maybe he just forget, or I don't know. But at the end, he make it up. It's fine. Uh, my point of view in general, that it's a good performance from him, um, just with that exceptions that I already told you.
Now, let me share from my perspective. I think that out of the four that we had today, he's the only one who understands this song better.
Mm-hmm.
I explained that Juan Diego goes very much Amapola, Amapola, ¿cómo puedes tú vivir tan sola? Beautiful sounds, beautiful voice, everything. But it was like with little interesting things. And if you notice, for instance, when opening the song, Rodolfo says, um, diciéndome así con su dulce canción. And takes time. Amapola. And that's exactly what we are expecting. That you know that you're coming from la 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 la. La 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 la. Ah, la, la, la. You see how he prepares. He wraps up the first phrase in
Yep.
order to continue with the following, and now all your attention is on the phrase of Amapola, lindissima amapola. He's also the only one who cares about the word lindissima. He pronounces very nice and he emphasizes correctly lindissima amapola, because the other ones were little or didn't care or didn't mind, didn't notice, didn't know, but didn't pay attention to lindissima. And lindissima amapola is very important here
Yeah.
because Amapola is a woman that you are so in love with. And you don't only tell her Amapola, you tell her lindísima Amapola. If you know Spanish, you know that it is a superlative.
Mm-hmm.
You're not
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, you're super beautiful. You are
Mm-hmm.
lindísima Amapola. So you cannot go Amapola, lindísima Amapola like any other word. It has to be lindísima. Of course, the singer has to decide how to emphasize the word, but the emphasis has to be there because lindísima is very important. And Rodolfo knows it, and he works with that. And he gives us several moments along the song where I notice that he worked on how to do it. Yo te quiero, amada niña mía. By mía. You notice that he didn't say mía, he said mía. And that small change that he does in mía is enough to understand that he studied the song. He knew how to do it, of course, and I have to agree with Raffa at the end. And yeah, he chose a star because it is much easier because you have the support of the T, tar, tar. It's very easy. Tar, B, as a B, B, the V fricativo, even if you say like B, E, the E is, and in high volume, high note, it's it's a curse. It's the path to a disaster. So he says, do I go on my road to disaster or go safely and just change the word? And he chose to change the word. Star. He also does something that I personally don't like. I understand why lyrical voices do it, and it has to do with the power of their voices. For them, it is much easier to do star, like you, instead of going directly to the high note, star, they go star, like star, because it's like if they were using a trampoline, for them it's easier to say star, star. And personally, I don't like that. Personally, that's a very personal opinion because you you are risking again to break the voice because it's like the in a like in a trampoline the voice is softer star star you're pushing like very immediately star, but if you go directly you already have the support and the placement is the star, you see a star you go immediately and attack. If you go star you like in a trampoline you may fall off and fall star you can have something horrible happening with your voice, but I know that many lyrical singers do it.
Yeah,
It's
it's a risk. At the end, it's a risk, and you should know it. And if you will do, you need to be very conscientious that you can fail in the intent in the attempt, but obviously you need to practice and practice and practice in order that when you perform in there, you can achieve that.
but except for those couple of things that didn't work for him, remember that these are live recordings. The four of them were live recordings. So in a studio, you have
Claro, claro.
hundreds of attempts so that everything is
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
But when you
Sure.
are live, you say, I was always perfect, but today that people are recording me, I failed.
Yes.
So maybe at home in his rehearsals, start on solo, it always worked. But that day at the concert, the final
Yes.
part
Yeah, 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 yeah.
almost became a disaster. However, given that he's a very experienced singer, he really he really doesn't crush his voice. He's in the
Exactly.
border. He's in the border, but he manages to control it, and that's
Yeah.
what an experienced singer is expected to do.
Yeah,
So
it was steady. It was a steady and a strong voice. Yes, he never break up at the end. Just as I said, just in the passaggio in "Cómo puedes tú estar," when there was out of the tone a little bit before than the very very final.
and you notice the experience. You notice how much he studied the song. As I said, from my perspective, out of the four, the only one who understood the song, who really knew what to do, where to do it, and how to do it, and more important, with his resources. He didn't pretend to have a much bigger voice that he has. He said, "This is my voice, and this is what I am going to use." So that's perfect. And that's why, out of the four, that is my favorite.
Okay.
But let's go to our summary of today's. So, Rafa, for Peruvian tenor Juan Diego Flores, is this a thumbs up? Oh, thumbs up? Or is it
Thumbs up.
thumbs up?
Yes.
You like it? Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
No, me no. No, sorry, no.
Okay. Okay.
Because of the arrangements or because of the slow. Because of that, sorry, I
I know,
cannot.
but as you said, for example, you said another thing, but I prefer I rather an interpreter that maybe abuse of his la, 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 in a love song, in a poem song. I rather this kind of interpretate or interpretation than the other side of the other dark side of the moon. No, which is Amapola, lindissima Amapola. It's not it doesn't match in there, you know, it doesn't match in there. So that's the reason why it's thumbs up, because you're right. It maybe abuses in this wave and loveliness and blah blah blah. Okay, it's fine, but at the end, in a way, it's much closer, for my point of view, to understand the meaning and the lyrics and the intention of the Amapola song than the Margarita or than Luis Maria Bilbao.
Okay, now that you mentioned Margarita, so Margarita is a thumbs up, a thumbs
Fun
down.
thought, yeah, thumbs up.
Margarita,
Yeah,
yeah, I would also give a thumbs up for
yeah, thumbs
Margarita.
up. It's fine. She's fine.
An Italian mezzo going for this difficult song, I think it does.
My point of view. She's not great, but she's fine.
Yeah,
She do it very well.
and with the great pianist that she has,
Yes, exactly,
it
exactly.
helps.
Yes, I agree.
Now,
I
well,
agree.
already you told us, but still you have to you have to say thumbs up or thumbs down for this Marie. Okay. Message was very clear, and as much as I appreciate Luis Maria, I also have to say that I don't think this is his best work. I
Okay.
have heard better,
All
so
right.
unfortunately, finally,
Exactly, exactly. Maybe he's not his kind of songs. Maybe he has another ones, and we could be an extraordinary interpreter. You know, because I
no,
really don't know this guy.
only not this time, only not for
Okay.
this song. And
Yeah.
finally, for tenor Rodolfo Acosta, thumbs up for. You see, great. And we
Yes.
also have that effect. So, with all that being said, we would like to thank you for having followed us on this second episode of our season. Music was born with life. Thank you very much, Rafa, and see
Yeah.
you
You're
in
welcome.
a
Thank
month.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.